Hello and welcome to a little ShutIn Spotlight, a series I like to do from time to time on certain little games and such that I am really enjoying and would like others to hopefully also enjoy in the future. Today is on Rogue Tower, a cool little roguelike tower defense game, i.e. Rogue and Tower, that came out a little while ago on Steam that I saw and also saw on other videos and around the internet. And I have since spent 20 plus hours doing a game that cost $15, so that's pretty good value for money. The game is a tower defense where you have three different modes of play: single defense, double defense, and triple defense. Single being your tower here only has one point of entry, double having two, and triple having three. There are a max of 45 waves in the game now. So as you can see, I've beaten the single defense, gotten really close, and the double defense and triple defense is something I'm working on. That's the core game, which we'll get to in a second. We're going to spend a moment talking about some of the smaller technical stuff and side things, such as the options menu first. Option menu, relatively nice and simple. One thing it doesn't have that I would particularly enjoy is, like, in minimum, a windowed or full screen on-off switch kind of thing, or toggle, would be very nice. I would also like to see some form of, like, UI options. Now, this is not because the game is the most complex in the world, or or somebody might need to change it, for technical reasons, as this game will probably run pretty well on most computers built in the last decade, like mine was. It's more so because these things are just nice sort of general quality of life features, I suppose you'd call them, in other games. But other than that, different volume sliders, some other QOL things that we see. Hi, sweet cat. Hello. Yeah. Now, rest of the game. It does have a little monster manual, and this is one point that I would sort of like to see a little bit expanded upon. These are all of your menus. Oh, this is true in all of your menus, in that you have these little W and S arrows, or in other menus they'll have the full WASD, and this is basically how you scroll through. Now, I would like that to be a little more self-evident. Somebody who might be newer to this, as my sweet cat being the world's biggest pain in my ass. Anywho, somebody who's newer might not know inherently what the W and the S are there for, but this is true against all both of the menus you'll see. Also, it doesn't say anything that you can about the fact you can hold or right click and drag. It doesn't say that at all. That's something I had to figure out just by accident. You can also scroll wheel to go in and out. Again, things the game assumes you to know, but in this instance I would prefer the game be more straightforward and just, like, just give me another little box here at the top that says, hey, use the WASD keys, or even the arrow keys, which also work, which again the game doesn't explain. You can use those to move around menus, or you can hold right click and drag to do the same thing. Of course, left click and drag does nothing. There are weird little things like that I'm not the biggest fan of. As for the monster manual, though, it gives loads of information and it has good flavor text, so it, like, builds a nice little world. And I like the art style, which is a nice little thing, but it gives you all the information you need on all the enemies. The only caveat being that you have to encounter one of the enemies first in order to be shown more about that enemy. But that makes sense from a progression standpoint, so I don't mind that. And the real, I guess you call it the meat of this game, where you can get multiple playthroughs besides the base game, is this massive upgrade table here. And when I say massive, I mean massive. Which is good, I enjoy that there's lots of upgrades. But one of the issues is with the upgrade, what do we call the upgrade menu, the upgrade tree. Besides also, again, this WASD thing where, again, the game just has these on screen and doesn't tell you what they mean. They assume you know. And this is a game that I would totally recommend to somebody who hasn't really gotten super into gaming besides like the basic stuff, you know, like your Marios and such of the world. This is a game, especially on PC, that, because I don't know if it's like available on other platforms, I don't believe it is. But this would be a beautiful intro to like PC gaming for people, and new players, again, don't know what this means. Anywho, that all aside, I actually enjoy the large depth of all of the upgrades, and this is also where you unlock certain towers. You spend some of the massive XP you see me having as currency, basically, to unlock all of these particular little cards here. And like the game says, where blue are permanent upgrades, and the yellow ones, or we'll call it yellow, are upgrades for during the game. The permanent upgrades are ones that will, will progress with you through your multiple gameplays, so that's your long-term, you know, economic upgrades and such like that. I really enjoy that system. And the reason why I harp on the WASD thing so much is that it clearly, the developers of the game clearly thought even about little quality of life things like this. So you could have another little box kind of like this explaining menu controls, or at minimum, say, bury the controls in an option menu so you can at least look it up like that. Now, my last little note on this, as it's been largely positive for the upgrades tree, is that you can quickly get to the point, like I am, in my effort to like try and air quote complete this game, where you can sit on over 10,000 experience like I have, and now you don't have anything. There are no XP sinks, and unless the developers have some sort of plans to, say, add more towers and upgrades or something, which would be pretty nice if they're going to do that. I just don't happen to know, as I'm not that, you know, influential to know these things. I would like to see either more things added in the near future, if they have the ability to, or have a, like, XP sync of, like, something to the akin of, like, all your towers cost, like, you know, 10% less or something like that for a certain amount of XP, and you have a big long list of those as a way to sink some more XP. As right now, the XP does nothing. And I could reset the game, but the reset doesn't do anything. It merely gives me the option to basically fill all these up again. That's useful in the beginning when you're just starting out and you're still kind of trying to find your footing with the upgrades. It's nice to be able to have the reset, so I enjoyed that, and I'm very grateful that they put that in. But that only solves one half of the problem of making bad investments early. The reset game allows you to mitigate those, but you've also not given me ways to spend all this excess XP that I'm just sitting here accumulating in this big pile doing nothing. Now, that all out of the game, we'll go straight into the actual gameplay itself. I will be doing double defense because it's the game mode that I'm trying to beat now, as I've already beaten single defense. But the game works practically the same. Go ahead and try and talk through the basics of this. I have no illusion that this is going to be the run that I beat this on, but boy, it'd be nice to have it on footage. Now, this is your basic little tower like the introduction shows. Another thing that the game, again, besides the WASD thing not being explained, it doesn't tell you that you can, say, click on certain buildings and structures that you'll see around the map as it is procedurally generated. This is one of those where it relies, again, on pre-existing knowledge. If you are like me and gaming is like your preferred art medium, and way to kill time, you might instinctively know to click on stuff and to see what might work. But if you don't, you'll never know what these do. So that's a bit of a complaint that could be a little more well articulated. But anywho, the houses, as it says, basically, for every tower you have parked next to a house, you will get extra gold as a sort of like payment to keep our house safe against the monsters, and it's a way to generate more economy later on. The mana crystals basically does exactly what you think it does. Once you get mana siphons, which is a card and a structure you can get, what we might get later on in the video, that you basically suck up mana from these mana crystals to power certain towers and abilities and such like that. Pretty self-explanatory. And these will be where all of your towers are and all of your various support structures. Again, a simple left click to click on it. Now, something the game doesn't tell you, besides the whole left click to interact with it, but that's basic enough to computing, I'll let that one go. Something you can do is click on one, place it, and then rinse and repeat to do it manually. But I only recently discovered that if you click on it and you have the blue square, if you hold shift, you can place multiple without having to manually click through every single... Oh wait, well, it doesn't do a great job of explaining it. It does say, like, up here. But if you're like me, like, there's so much, like... I mean, that might just be me, but it could do a better job of showing this, because it's in the weird blue sea of a background that the game is on. Just put, like, another one of these, like, gold little yellowy borders in the background, so I know to look for it, if that makes any sense. It might seem minor and nitpicky, and it is equally because of my own stupidity, I will admit this, but it's just little small quality of life things for people like me who were fucking blind, as a general rule, and miss stuff all the time. Now, when you're ready to start, after you place your opening wave of towers, you will see where the two paths here, you have to click on expand to start the next wave every time you beat a wave, and that's how you generate more randomly generated tiles. We'll go ahead and expand here, and like every single tower defense, enemy spawn at the edges of the map and will try to walk towards your tower. You place towers in the way or place various towers in the way to shoot and kill the enemy before they damage your tower and bring their health from whatever the number happens to be, in this case 20, to 0. Now, this is the card upgrade system that makes each run unique and different, besides just the randomly generated what's the word? Besides the just randomly generated tile aspect of the game. We'll go ahead and we'll do the Tesla Coil, why not? I do like these little descriptions. They are pretty effective in explaining what they all do, to where you don't really have to ask too many questions about what they should do in practice, pardon. We'll go ahead and select the Tesla Coil so I can show you guys that. We'll go ahead and expand down to the bottom. I have personally found it useful to try and evenly expand outwards. Let's see, we have another little upgrade. Through the large upgrade screen that you saw earlier, I have upgraded it to the point where I get these little building cards every single round, where I believe at the start of the game, if you have no upgrades, I believe it takes every 3 or 4 rounds, I believe. And you can upgrade it to get them more and more frequently until you get to this point where you get them every wave. We'll go ahead and build the mana siphon so I can show that off. What, Carmel? Hi, honey. Go hang out, baby. We'll go ahead and place the mana siphons down here. And again, they have to be placed adjacent to the mana crystals. And the way you can tell that they are actually working is you'll also notice how much mana per second you have going up. In this case, it went from base 3 to a base of 4. Also, if you click on the mana siphon, it'll tell you if it's actually working or not. And that's how those basically work. We'll go ahead and expand to the next wave. And you use mana for various towers and the abilities of certain towers, like I talked about. The first that we'll show you is the Tesla Coil, which does more or less what you would expect it to do. We'll do radar, why not? The Tesla Coil is a big, shocky tower that damages things in its little white range of influence. And you can manually, while we're here, you can adjust your various target priorities, which is very nice to do. I don't care that much about that, but I'm certain that if you really fine-tune these things, that you can really get like more and more mileage out of this. You can also manually choose to upgrade your tower's damage against the various types of health your opponent will have, where health is the base version of, and that's the green armor that you see our little dudes having. We have armor damage, which is yellow, and shield damage, which you might see, which is purple. And various armor have weaknesses, where bleed does the most damage against health, flame the most damage against armor, and poison the most damage against shields. So it's good to have damage spread out across the various types and across all of your towers. Also, one thing I want to talk about is the various elevations here. And basically, we'll take this example of this little crossbow here, or ballista, pardon. It is on level 1, basically, or like ground level, not level 1. And you can see its range is 5. If we place another, say on range level 3, damage is 10, damage is 9, so our damage does go up a little bit. Also, the range is 5 on the ground level, and range is 6.5 on rate 3. So basically, the higher your towers are on the map, the better they are, is the best way to think about it. And this is true for all types of towers. And then, as you see our little boys here, with the green health, that's just their basic raw health. Let's see. We'll do Power Surge. We'll upgrade the Tesla Coil's damage to health. And again, we'll just try and equally spread out. And as you expand out, depending on how RNG looks, how kindly RNG looks upon you, you can see the map generates random little side things where you can get, say, more mana crystals, or say more houses. As I try and click on those, but anywho, ooh, a building for the mine, that'll work. You get again more houses here that work basically like the other houses do. And you can see this thing right here. This is an iron vein. And like it says, you can place a mine that we just got in order to get next to this resource in order to gather from it. Sorry. And these little another difference between the damage dealing towers and the like support structure towers is that every single, if you might have already noticed this, every single tower you build of a particular type will further increase its cost. So, but this is not true for like the mana siphons and the mines and the other support structures. So you can always, they'll always be the same price basically. Little side note: the higher elevation of support structures doesn't really impact its effectiveness. It only works for active combat-focused actual towers. Now, as for the increasingly expensive tower point, I'll prove my point. Notice how this Tesla coil costs 275 gold now, but if I say I want to place it next to this house in order to get some gold from it, now it costs 350. The amount that it increases will vary from individual tower to tower, but it will always increase but you can always demolish it for 100% of the cost. So, see how, remember how I spent $275 on this tower? I can demolish it for $275. So you can immediately get rid of the tower for all it's worth and not have to worry about losing money, which is a very, very nice detail. I think that's like the way that those types of resources should be handled in single player games. There's no reason to like punish somebody for learning stuff. But anywho, we will still go with the Tesla tower here. Again, we want to, as it says here, this house is being protected by one tower. And the tower, the higher level the tower gets, the more money the house gives to me in protection fees, basically. So we want to actually go out of our way to try and develop on like housing or near housing to help our early game gold flow. And look at the range also as a way to, again, sort of drive home the point here. Notice how on ground level, which is where this Tesla's coil is now, the tower has a range of 1.5. But over here on ground level 3, it has a range of 3. So it's one of those, again, it just, the best way to think of it is higher tower, better tower is basically how to think about it. Again, range 3, 30 RPM, 6 mana a shot. Notice how range 1.5, fire rate 30, mana rate 5. So 30 RPM. The fire rate stays the same, but notice how the mana value is less and the range is more. I mean, shit. Base damage 13, base damage 10, and they're both still level 1, so it's not like they've gotten levels to skew the numbers. So that's the basics of the game. And now I'll just try and loosely commentate over the rest of the normal run here. Let's see, we're going to also try and use a lot of these Tesla coils, so we're going to invest in our mana generation infrastructure. We'll go ahead and probably place another Tesla coil on that tower. Again, we want to increase the amount of extra gold we can get, because goddamn, you'll need every bit of it. We'll go ahead and we'll do Tesla coil damage to armor. Why not? Also, another note of all of these houses, how they are generating these gold. They only generate them at the beginning of a new wave. So notice how I have 178 at the end of level 6. And whenever I press the expand button to start the next wave, you'll actually see all the money that the towers give us, not only on the actual screen, but as well as reflected in the actual gold count. So again, pay attention to 178, and you see the money here and here go up. And that's so you get extra money from investing in your, basically, houses. Also, you can see with guys like... okay, well... One thing the game does explain that I didn't show is that if an enemy has multiple, health types, you have to work through them in a particular order. So you have to get through all our opponent's shields first, and then through all of their armor, and then through all of their health to kill them. You can't, like, target only their health and like try and get under it. You have to actually get through all of their health, which is why you need, again, a very robust and varied or pretty evenly split at minimum split of damage from your for your relative types. Okay, we'll go ahead and get thermal arcing. We like burn damage. Burn damage again being the best type against armor. Go ahead and place this Tesla coil near this tower, or Tesla coil near this house, pardon. We'll go ahead and place probably a ballista next to each of these little houses. You might actually get a radar, so I can show you some of the longer range varieties. And again, you can see you have to get through their armor here in yellow before you can actually get to their health and properly kill them. Also, that little red icon you see is the icon that shows that like an enemy is burning. There'll be a little blood droplet here in case they happen to be bleeding, and there's a little skull and crossbones thing. Kind of like, well, hang on, let me. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's do fortification. Let's get some more max up. These little icons show you, or what you'll see when you see that a enemy is being damaged by that particular type of damage. Again, red little water, blood drop for blood, the fire for fire, and these skull and crossbones for toxic. Also, this is the icon for slowing. There's a certain tower that you can get that allows you to apply slows to targets, and certain upgrades will also allow you to allow your other towers to apply slows as well. And slows do exactly what you think. Makes them slower so they take more damage and have to take longer to get to your main tower here. Go ahead and invest in our little housing infrastructure here. And certain enemies do have little abilities. Like how you saw the little guys there said something basically as a tell for you. Yeah, that get to the tower where they'll increase their speed, say, and the speed of those around them. So enemies do have certain little abilities. Sometimes they'll do that ability where they, you know, rally their fellow attackers, and you'll have to, and they'll speed up, and you got to kill them a little quicker so they don't make more progress. Some will spawn more enemies on their death. They just vary from enemy to enemy. I guess we'll go to sure, we'll get more Tesla coil damage. Again, we'll go ahead and just increase. I'm going to save up money to buy a radar so I can show you one of the variety of towers that have longer range. The radar also of the long range variety easily being the best. Not even close. The others are the radar and your other really long range variety towers will cost like 1,000 gold. Basically, your hard hit and mean ones. But the radar is the only really long range one that earns that price tag. The tower known as the particle cannon is such overpriced, or it is so overpriced for what or how little it does. As a general little note here. Sure, we'll go with static. We're gonna need some more damage against shields here. But my point is, really quick, we'll talk about it. One of my biggest problems is that certain towers are really weirdly out of whack in terms of how much I think the price should be for how little they do. The particle cannon is overpriced garbage, basically. It never ever rewards the investment. It just doesn't do enough damage. But certain things like the radar that cost, say, 1,000 do actually warrant the cost. Radar does basically what it says here, or what you would imply. It's a little radar dish that summons a little biplane that like flies around, and inside of its really big range here in white will come around and take little strafing runs at your enemies here. I like the biplane a lot here. One of my favorite little upgrades. We might save up for another radar to put behind this house here. And then we'll do a little bit more work on fortifying further up the path. You will have some things get through. It's just a reality of the game, more or less. See the little biplane coming in. Doing little strafing runs. It's honestly a very nice little tower. AoE is lovely to have against the big old waves. And the radar you wouldn't, and the biplane itself isn't radar like you think it is, but it does pretty much work out like that. Very nice. Ah, there's the Frost Keep that slows enemies. We're not going to get that this run simply because it's not that useful, but this is the tower that slows enemies and uses mana to do it. The slow is just like not strong enough to justify the investment and the drain on your mana required to activate it. The pricing is okay. The effect just needs a little tuning, in my opinion. We'll go Broadhead Bolts. Why not? Again, try and expand relatively evenly. Oh, this might go bad. You know what? Actually, maybe we'll take a round off here and fortify the high ground with more ballistas. Since, due to the nature of this run, they can actually hit both lanes pretty reliably. And overlapping fire zones are very, very useful in this game. This little battering ram you see will show, like I said, that some enemies, when they die, will actually have enemies like spawn out of them. And that's what happens with the battering ram and several others. Alright, we're not doing... Okay, we might die to that. That would suck. Oh my god. Please kill it. Thank you. Let's invest in another mine here. Since for every mine you build, provided you are building it into an iron vein, you do have a chance, like it says, to repair some damage on your tower, which is amazing, unironically. We'll go ahead and get more burn damage. We'll largely probably commit to these for the sake of our little spotlight video today. Let's see. We might, if we make it far enough, start investing near these houses, but right now money's a little tight. So we're just trying to save money and concentrate our defenses a little more locally. Once you get later on and you have access to more money and more enemies coming in from a wider variety of areas, you will need to... you don't need to, but it would behoove you to put more defenses in a wider variety and area of places, since any damage is damage. And it's all damage you want to avoid if at all possible. Or... Oh, that sucks. Ah. Couple battering rams. Holding it up. Another little, I guess you call it a tip here. While the Frost Tower isn't that useful because it doesn't give, like, the most slow for your money, if you can say there's an upgrade for the ballistas you see here that happens in rounds like this, that will give your towers the ability to slow targets and I believe even freeze them occasionally. Those are lovely, lovely upgrades, and I recommend those if you can manage to get a hold of them. We'll go ahead and get damaged armor, since that's pretty relevant to what we're doing right now. And get our second and probably last little, what's the word? Radar for this run. One thing I'm not the biggest fan of is in moments like this where you're trying to, like, click on a lower piece of land behind a higher piece of land, you kind of have to pixel hunt more than I care to. Oh, come on. I really want to place that near the tower. Oh, it's level 2, man. I really don't want to... Oh, come on. Not the mine. Come on. Come on. Am I crazy? Do I just not get to access it? Yeah, like, little pixel hunts like this are not fun. I'm, like, just sitting here, as you can see, trying to get the... Oh, that's really annoying. Well, that is another nitpicky thing of, like, there's moments like this that I don't really want to, like, pixel hunt, and I really kind of shouldn't have to. As well as you can see here, when I click on a structure, it gives me all the stats. which makes total sense. But if I say click on a tower button that happens to be on top of it, not only will I click on the tower I want to build, I also click on the structure or tower beneath it, which is a minor little nitpick, admittedly. It's not the end of the world. Oh, that's so fucking annoying. It's just a mild nuisance. And I literally have to just... Alright, I'm not going to keep on pixel hunting. Like, I have to now lose money in the long term because I can't find, like, the one pixel here, if I can even click on it, to get access to it. Like, I don't like that really at all. I would love, like, a way to get around that. Or some sort of way to address that in some manner. That's really, really frustrating. We'll go ahead and again just line our little towers, or a little area here with more towers. Again, we're probably going to die really soon, as I'm not as committed to making this work. I'm just trying to show off the game itself. So that's totally fine. And I've already shown the record if I really want to appease that part of my psyche. Again, the default, not again, but for reference, the default priority is just progress, which is they try and shoot the thing that's closest to the tower. Which is a totally acceptable priority to just leave your towers on for the most part. You don't usually have to worry about it too much, and it will largely do basically what you expect it to do. Alright, ooh, we can give our ballista some bleed damage, which is effective against health, as well as just being more damage. Let's see. I think we'll just place some regular ballistas outside of these houses. See, also, to go back to my earlier point, it's a little easier here to find the pixel, but that other one over there is just insanely difficult to do. Again, just going to invest in making more money. Always useful. Also, as you can see, at level 15, or wave 15, whatever you want to call it, and at several other points, there are basically bosses that come. And if the boss hits your tower at any health, it doesn't matter how high or how low, you instantly lose the game. Which I actually rather enjoy, as it does give the bosses a little bit more bite. And while I'm talking about it, various enemies, when they hit your tower at its base rate, will deal various amounts of damage. These little guys here usually only deal like 1 damage, but say the battering rams, they reach your tower, they deal like, I think it's like 4 or 5 damage, something like that. Again, which I do enjoy, and it does like actually make sense, so it's not really a complaint. You might not kill him. He might actually be what kills us. Okay, no, there we go. Once the biplanes get into him. Not that much longer. Go ahead and add another tower just for safety's sake. And when you defeat a boss, you get additional little treasure, which are basically just more cards to use. So besides the whole, if the boss touches your tower, you immediately lose part of the game, there's also a benefit to killing them in that you do actually just get access to more towers, which is very nice. Okay, we're actually doing like a good amount of damage here with our towers. I think we're gonna invest in some more mines that I saw further out. Not only increasing our towers max health, it also helps to every once in a while heal damage. And it'll probably happen and I won't notice it, but you'll just notice when it starts a wave, it'll magically go up in health for no particular reason. Electro hemorrhaging. Tesla's gaining bleed damage? Hell yeah. Let's see, we'll go, like I said earlier, and place some mines at this particular vein. Just wanting to get some money where we can manage it. Or not, in this case, not money, but some defense is where we can manage it. Level 15 is where you see your first enemies with shields. The little zombies here that you can't click on, but you would have seen in the monster manual part of the video earlier on. Also have these graves that, and you might have seen the upgrade a couple of times, where you can make a little house of the dead that uses mana to then basically extract taxes from the dead. And there's some joke about not being able to avoid taxes even in death. There's some joke in this. Let's see. Some more Tesla tower coils here. I know what actually is for you. Okay. Just so I know for certain you're hitting basically what I want you to. Usually the first wave of the zombies or any enemies with shields will usually get through some of your defenses, unless you've like really future-proofed your setup, which was a good practice to do, if I'm being honest. But I think we'll be okay here. And even if we do, we have 11 health, so we can always afford to just kind of take the hit, if nothing else. Biplane's doing nice little bits of damage here. Tesla coils are a little weird. They're not bad, they're very hit and miss. We'll make our ballistas deal burn damage too. Again, more damage is good, and burn damage, as we talked about, does eat through shields. We'll head over here. Probably invest more into the house over here. Again, just looking to get as much money as we can. 360. Come on. There we go. I think we might put another Tesla coil up here somewhere. In one of these cracks, probably here, so we can, in theory, hit a lot of enemies at once. When building towers, you do kind of have to think about how much exposure a tower has in its range. It is I mean, it's not like the end of the world if you don't have great coverage, since some coverage is better than no coverage. More that it's just a little quality of life thing. God. Oh, we're not doing good. The zombies are really eating up some damage here, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. As those... Oh, God. No! No! Well, that's nice. It does at the end, whenever you lose, it does actually show you all of these lovely and actually genuinely very informative bits of information that I really, really love. And you can see why I had such a obsession here with the houses, since it does show you by what share your income actually comes in. And you can see 30%, basically 40% of my money coming from house protection is pretty good. Death tax being the buildings that you can place next to graves and tax the dead. Banditry and gold rush are cards you can get that basically make your enemies drop more gold at the cost of either being faster in the case of gold rush or dealing more damage to your tower in the case of banditry. And that is basically Rogue Tower, a nice little $15 game that you can easily get 15 hours out of. And I think that a hour per dollar spent, especially for an indie game, is a very, very acceptable rate of return on your investment, if you want to call it that. Rogue Tower as a whole, as a game, though, is honestly very, very fun. Besides the somewhat nitpicky issues here that I've had, again, with the menu controls not being entirely explained and stuff like that. and like the lack of an XP sync, or those are very minor things, as well as the windowed or not windowed and maybe some basic resolution options. Those are very minor. Those are particularly minor. These ones are a little bit more so of an issue. Again, not at all enough to deter me from recommending the game. Just like minor inconveniences, and in case of the options, like actually not important. The aforementioned options things would be just nice as a general rule, but by no means required, especially for a game like this. And I also wanted to show this Tower Master's Guide thing. I didn't explain this properly, but this is what I'm talking about of enemies having various status effects. In this game, in this case, like, will very clearly tell you everything the game basically wants you to know about, like, what you'll see on an enemy and how to deal with it and what they all do. So the game is clearly totally comfortable with, like, in this case, dumping information on you to give you the ability to make an informed decision. So they're just weird little bits that, like, are missing in bits and places that are, again, very minor conveniences. Overall, I still totally recommend the game. If you are like me, and you do like the occasional roguelike like I do, and you also like grew up playing tower defense games on Flash websites of old, or Warcraft tower defense games, and stuff like that, I would totally recommend this game at full price. If you can get it on a sale, then by all means, gobble this bad boy up real quick. You'll easily have a good amount of fun for your time. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like the video if you liked it, sub if you like my content, and if you have any sort of questions, say things I missed, you know, general things, as long as you keep it nice and constructive, or even just want to talk about the game, that's what comments are for down below. Again, thank you all, and stay safe out there.